Hello for the 29th Sunday in Ordinary Time, using the first reading, which is Isaiah 53, 10 and 11, and Mark's reading 10, 35 to 45. Hope none of you here have great memories because I used this one example early on when we started the parish relative to the gospel. And it is this, as far as it deals with my next door neighbor, Oscar Rummel III, who wanted a pony for Christmas. And it sort of reminded me right away when I read that thing with James and John going to Jesus and asking for a special request. And that special request is, I think their mother put them up to something like this by asking Jesus, when you establish your kingdom of God, would you let James and John, he and I, be one on your right and one on your left? And Jesus said, you don't know what you're asking for. And it reminded me of my next door neighbor when I guess I was about 6 or 7, and Oscar Rummel III was 5 or going on 6. And he hounded and asked his father for a pony for Christmas. Now, can you imagine his father, who loves Oscar, and he wants him to say, "Well, uh, we'll see." And we lived right in the middle of a nice suburb and houses, some new houses, small houses, but new, and houses on the right, houses on the left, behind, and in front. And it was you just living in the city. But little Oscar Romo asked Dad, what I really want for Christmas is a pony. We can keep him in the backyard. Well, he asked his dad for a pony for 2 or 3 years. Guess what? Oscar never got the pony. And that reminds me of James and John going to Jesus Christ and asking that one of them sit on his right hand and one of them sit on his left when he establishes his kingdom of God. Because we're going to be involved and we're going to help you do it. All these apostles were simple people, and not stupid, but simple. And they were living in occupied territory, the Roman Empire. And by golly, they wanted to get rid of the Romans. Some of them were called zealots to overthrow the Roman Empire in the Holy Land there. And this was in the minds and hearts of the Jesus community and the fishermen and the apostles. And so they, in a sense, thought that Jesus was going to get rid of the Romans and establish a kingdom, and they would like to be number 1 and 2 on the right or left. And Jesus just says, you don't know what you're asking for. I mean, it takes a cosmic shift what Jesus was trying to do for the world, and then these guys come up and say, we want to be in power, one on your right, one on your left. I mean, they didn't understand. It's almost like Peter, when Jesus was getting ready to go into Jerusalem and to suffer and die and rise again, though, when Peter says, you're not going into Jerusalem because I won't let you, they're going to kill you. You go in there. You know that. I'm not going to let you. Jesus, get behind me, Satan. Well, he was much more delicate with James and John than he was with Peter. And Jesus said, can you undertake and go through the baptism? Or I want to do that. We can do what you do. But let us be one on your right and one on your left. And Jesus, in a polite way, in a nice way, he says, that's not for me to do or to give. Well, I think insights like that can bring us of James John or their mother, you know, insights like that were so far removed from the reality of what Jesus was doing. But, my little head and your little head very often is likely far from the reality of what it's all about. Sometimes we approach Jesus Christ or God in our prayer life, and we want the most preposterous things to happen, or our attitude as far as what things ought to be like, and the world ought to be the way I see it. And I even ask God to help make it the way I see it. Oh, 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 how far off we can get. So I think, as far as in my prayer life, and probably and maybe yours, as far as just to sort of check ourselves and say, my encounter with Jesus or my prayer life with God, sometimes I ask Him for wild things to happen, as opposed to what I think Jesus is trying to teach the people, His apostles, all the people in the early Christian community. What ultimately is, it's not my way, it's your way. And you probably don't understand all of God's way. And we just don't have the insight to understand the mind of God. We never will. But what Jesus is doing and setting up for the whole world, for all people, is a different way of life, a better way of life. And He has sent us some people throughout history that have done darn good jobs of trying to do that, and it shows. But He has done that perfectly, and so has His mother. But the mother of James and John and so forth, I don't think they did it as perfectly. They're sort of maneuvering their boys to be one on the right and one on the left. It's almost ingrained in the human personality to be on the top, to be the most important and the most powerful and the richest person. And that's not the way with Jesus or with me. I think the ultimate of all of this is looking at Jesus Himself. When He was getting ready to die, the night before He died, when He went to the Garden of Gethsemane with Peter, James, and John, and He asked His Father, "Will take this cup away from me," once or twice, and He sweat blood in doing it. And finally, He gave the answer, and the answer is what He has taught with His life. But not my will, but yours be done. So instead of trying to tell God or even ask God to make the world go my way, the insight of Jesus is to love the way He has loved, to forgive the way He forgives, and love and respect the other person the way He respected all and loved all. Oh, a pony for Christmas would make me the happiest little boy in the world. Really? Yeah, for about a week. Then you want something else. Oh, Jesus, if you let me have this, it'd make me the happiest person. I'd be fully complete. For about 4 days. Not my will, but your will be done. Isn't that what we're really called to try to do in our prayer life, in our everyday life? Have a good day.